guys, how we doing? Welcome to the Christmas edition of Talking Boxing. It is Monday, December 22nd, 2025, and as always, great to have you along. A little bit to talk about this week. Since the last show, we've had the Tim Tszyu card, we've had the Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua card. Kay Scott yesterday winning the world title, and a fair bit of other stuff going on at the moment. So, as I said, a lot to talk about before Christmas on, on Thursday? How quickly has it come around? So if you're new to the show, it is exactly what it says there, Talking Boxing. You decide what direction we go in. Put your comment, remarks, questions, whatever it might be, in the chat, and let's get things rolling. And thank you to everyone also that listens on a weekly basis. There's about 50-odd people that listen every week on Spotify. So really great to have you along for another big week of boxing. All right, now tonight, or in this episode, I want to hear about not only those particular things that I just mentioned, but I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on women's boxing. Now, I watched, I'm not sure what he's watching at the moment, but D-Style, his interview this morning with, is it ringside with Christine, I think it is, talking about female boxing. So, of course, in the last few days, we've had Shanika Johnson defending her undisputed 118-pound title. We've had Kay Scott winning, of course. We've had massive success this year. Sky Nicholson won last weekend. We've had Desi Robinson, Shay Keneally, although she hasn't fought very regularly, has she, Shay Keneally? Has she actually defended her belt? I'm not sure she has. But I want to know your thoughts on female boxing, because I was debating today, going back and forth about 2 minutes versus 3 minutes, 12 rounds versus 10 rounds, whether the public actually wants to see women's boxing. Is there an appetite for it? I think Christine got a little bit bent out of shape when D-Style told a few home truths, but I want to hear your honest comments. I'm not passing judgment. I'm legitimately interested in hearing what you have to say about female boxing. And what I mean by that, do you look forward to the fights? Do you follow it as closely as the men's? When there's a big fight coming up, does the feelings sort of come about, the nerves and anticipation comes, or is it just like, oh, well, there's a good female fight on this card, I suppose I'll watch it? Do you anticipate the big fights coming up? I'm just interested to hear. Is it a big stadium type of affair? Is it just a small little ballroom type of thing that female box? I know it depends on fight to fight, but as I said, I'm curious to see your thoughts. Just for no other reason that I was listening to them today. I was actually going to go on this morning, but just with Christmas, there's a fair bit going on. So I was in the car, had to go to work. So I'm in the car and I listened to it later on. And I wonder what people actually think about female boxing, really. Do they look forward to the fights? And is it big or bigger? I know female boxing has improved a lot, but I'm just, as I said, interested to hear your thoughts. All right, let's get into some of the questions before we get into that. We'll start with Big J. What do you got there, mate? It's great to see the boxing is back in balance. Both Jake Paul and Andrew Tate both got their asses handed to them. Maybe those two should have fought each other when they had the chance. Yeah, maybe. The Jake Paul one, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about that tonight. You would have saw my thoughts yesterday. What's today, Monday? Yeah, you would have saw my thoughts yesterday about the Jake Paul fight. Andrew Tate, I didn't see it. Is it the Misfits or something? Whatever it is, I didn't see it. What I did see, actually, that just makes me shake my head. Now, I'm not saying or commenting on what side of the political fence you're on, but I had to laugh today and I think a few people have actually commented on it or focused on it on social media. The article read, and I'm actually going to bring it up as we go here because I want to read it out. This is mainstream journalism these days. All right. Now, I know, again, I'm not commenting on the political landscape because you are who you are, I suppose, and what your thoughts are. Your thoughts are. I'm not really getting into that. But this is where we're at with some of the mainstream media. Where is it? Here we go. Radical misogynist put to sleep in brutal KO. I'll read that again. Radical misogynist put to sleep in brutal KO. Now, whether you think he's a misogynist or not, if you don't know what the misogynist is, I think it's where you obviously put women down and don't rate women, all that sort of stuff. Just as I'm mentioning in female boxing, by the way, so not great timing on my behalf. But put to sleep in brutal KO. Now, when I read the headline, I thought, I saw the highlights of that, and I saw the decision getting announced. I don't remember him getting put to sleep in a brutal KO. So this reporter, who actually wrote the article, this is coming up now, Tyson Otto, whoever the hell Tyson Otto is, mate, you've just won Peanut of the Year. Well, I know we've got a week to go, but you have won Peanut of the Year. You haven't bothered to even watch the fight. And if you had to watch the fight, yeah, he got beat. And again, I'm not commenting on any of that stuff, but at least watch the fight, mate. He didn't get dropped. Did he get dropped? I don't know. He certainly didn't get KO'd. And it certainly wasn't a brutal KO, and he didn't get put to sleep. So whether you think he's a radical misogynist or what, who cares? But I suppose the point is that the mainstream media will do anything they can to push a certain agenda and to rip certain people down. And we all know the mainstream media predominantly is, without getting political, is predominantly left-wing. So if you're anything to do with the right-wing, heaven help you if you get into any shit. So, because they'll lay the boots in and while protecting everyone on the other side of the fence. So, anyway, that's what I thought of that, Big J. What was your question again? It wasn't really a question, was it? It was a comment. Jake Paul, yeah, okay. Whether you rate him or not, and whether you rated his performance or not, yeah, maybe you're right there about the balance. Andrew Tate's going to divide a few people. But yeah, maybe they should have fought each other. Who knows? I'll get a couple of your comments there, Big J, before I give someone else a crack. K. Scott got the dominant win yesterday, and hopefully this leads to a trilogy with Desley Robinson. Massive all-Aussie girl fight. Yeah, well, they've had 2 fights already. One each. I actually thought Desley Robinson won the first one as well, but K. Scott got the decision. If they do fight again, it's going to be for all the belts. And that was another thing I saw today, that Kay was actually having a bit of a crack at D-Style with some of his comments about her getting a shot at the world middleweight title, WBA and WBC. And D-Style's point, and I agree, a fighter coming off a loss should not be getting world title fights. Are you listening, Ryan Garcia? Should not be getting a world title fight. Now, I understand that Ryan Garcia is Ryan Garcia, so he's going to maybe get a few favours. But and the only thing I'll say here is the talent pool of the middleweight division and above in the women's category is horrendously shallow. So they've got to get someone to fight for the belt. So Kay's argument was, we're ranked in the top 10, we're available, we're going to fight for it, and that's fine. But in the ratings, I'm not sure, actually, I haven't got the ratings up there, but Kay Scott was coming off a loss and a draw in her last 2 fights, and Olivia Curry was coming off 2 draws for getting that world title fight. So, look, I get it. They need someone to fight for the belts, and they were the 2 highest ranked contenders available. Odd that it was for both belts, though. But anyway, so her argument was, well, who do you want to fight for it? We're available, we're rated. Let's just go. Let's keep the belts in circulation. So that was her argument. D-Star was like, well, maybe if you had maybe got another couple of women involved, we could have had maybe a semi-final and a 2 winners fight to at least give it some sort of relevant sort of thing. But good luck winning that argument, D-Style. Yes, you're not going to win that. One more from Big J. Jake Paul finally got what he deserved, and now we finally can stay out of boxing. Big J, I think you know well enough, mate. He's not staying out of boxing. He will be around for quite some time. I agree. I don't rate him. He got what was coming to him. Apart from the actual fight itself, I'm not a fan of Jake Paul, don't get me wrong, but I loved the event itself and what he did. The whole Hulkamania thing and coming out, there was so much excitement in the arena, and he had the outfit on and the music. It was pretty cool. You got to give him that. He really knows how to build an event. Problem is that he's got to get in there and fight, and all he did was run rings for 5 rounds. So, and then got caught in the 6th round. It was a good shot that he got finished with too, wasn't it? And I reckon if he had to hit him, I think he pulled it a little bit in the end. If that had hit like he hit Ngannou, he'd still be asleep, I reckon. But yeah, he got what he deserved, but he's not staying out of boxing, BJ. I think you're smart enough to know that. Okay, we'll get one more from you, Big J. What's that? A comment on my channel suggested that the reasons Kay Scott, Desley Robinson, and Shanika Johnson, and maybe even Ebony Bridges never got snapped up by No Limit is their involvement in OnlyFans. Never thought of it like that. That's a really good point, Big J. I doubt it, though. I doubt that that would be the case. And your guess is as good as mine why they haven't snapped up more of the girls. Is we've had plenty of girls out there. I mean, the girls are killing it at the moment. Shanika Johnson, Kay Scott, Desley Robinson, even still Shannon O'Connell, Jazzy Parr have all had big fights on other cards, and Ebony Bridges before that. So I don't know why they had Chanel Dargan. I don't know what happened there. She's now with Wanderer Promotions and fighting Shannon O'Connell in is it February on a Wanderers promotion card. Yeah, I don't know, Big J. I've always wondered this, and I've actually said this quite a few times, for Australia's biggest promoter in Australia. I've said numerous times, the keys to the Ferrari. The TV rights, the backing, everything else. Why they haven't really pursued the females in Australian boxing, because we are dominating at the moment. Why they wouldn't have made a play for Sky Nicholson, why they wouldn't have made a play. Well, they had Desley Robinson, didn't they? I think she fought on a couple of their cards. Not sure about Kay Scott. Shanika Johnson, I mean, she signed with MVP now, so I get that. And Desley Robinson, of course. But they had opportunities, I reckon, for all these girls. Because Shanika Johnson only signed with MVP, I think, this year. Before that, she was with Lou DiBella. So they had their opportunities. And really, if they were fair income, Big J, they would have been under the management of all those top girls to the management and said, right, when the contracts come up, we want to have a say. We want to state our case. We want these girls. Because imagine what they would do to this stable to have a Shanika Johnson, to have a Sky Nicholson, to have Desley Robinson, Kay Scott. The Scott and Robinson fight should have been on a No Limit card. Should have been. The Jazzy Parr and what was her name? The last girl that beat her. Maya Solomon. That should have been a No Limit card. So, and Shanika Johnson, they should be moving, not that it's going to happen now, but before that should have been moving heaven and earth to get fighters like her on board. And I don't know why they just haven't done it, Big J, because they've pursued other male fighters in Australian boxing. They've obviously got Liam Paro. Now they went after Isaac Harbin. They went after Liam Wilson, who were with other promoters at the time, to boost their stable. I don't know why they haven't got behind a female or females. Because in this day and age as well, there's so much money to be gained from grants from governments to have female fights on the card. Now, for instance, when we had, I can't remember what card, it might have actually been the Michael Zarafa and Jeff Horn card. We got additional money by having, I think Shannon O'Connell fought Bianca Almir. And we got more money by having a female fight on the card, and a good female fight on the card. And I think we got offered later, or incentive to say, look, this is before COVID actually, so it all went out the window, and the whole thing sort of fell down. But it was, all right, guys, if you put a big female fight on the card, there is some extra funding coming your way. So I don't know why No Limit will be saying, hey, we'll take that action, let's go, and really get behind female boxing in this country, which again goes to my question, do people actually want to see it? Maybe they've done the homework, maybe talking to boxing fans, maybe they've had female boxing on, and when they're on they don't rate. I don't know. Remember, No Limit actually were the first ones in Australia to do the all-female card on one of those, was it nights on Fox or whatever they were. I did when I was promoting an all-amateur female card, and we actually had Sky Nicholson and Taylor Robinson both fought on that card. From memory, I can't remember who else might have been on there, but we had both of those girls on that card. And it was actually a pretty big success, but it's amateurs. It's a different thing. You don't need a big crowd to put it on. They don't cost you anything. So I would have thought, yeah, Big J, that they definitely would have had someone approach them, or they would have had someone doing homework about, all right, we put some big fights on. How much is in it for us? Don't know. But anyway. All right, I'll move on. I'll come back to a couple of your comments there, Big J. Shadow Boxer, how are you there, mate? What do you got there? What's your thoughts on weightlifting for boxers, and did you ever do it yourself? Are there benefits? I I don't like weightlifting for boxers, shadow box. I think it actually hinders them, unless maybe you're a big heavyweight, but still, it would still hinder you. I did weights, but low weights but high repetition. So I think you'll find a lot of boxers do that because you still got to be strong, explosive, but you can't be all muscle bound. Not only does it slow you down, but you're also, of course, it puts on weight. Muscle's obviously heavier than fat. So yeah, I did a lot of high explosive repetition type of weights, shadow boxer, but yeah, no heavy weights at all. I'd be surprised if any boxers do any sort of heavy weights at all. Maybe in the legs, I don't know, but not for me, shadow boxer. I can't see the sense in it, and I think a lot of boxers these days have actually gotten smarter. It used to always be about, they'd almost split the time 50-50 between boxing and strength and conditioning. Now, my thought was always, well, anyone can sort of get fit and strong and everything else, but you need to put as much time as possible into the boxing side because, yeah, you might be big and fit and strong and then all that strength conditioning, but if you haven't put enough work into head movement or footwork or whatever, or defense, well, it doesn't matter how fit and strong you are, you're going to fall down. So my thing was always probably 75 to 80% just boxing related and 20% strength and conditioning related. I know a lot of boxers sort of went the other way for quite some time. I know it's sort of horses for courses type of thing. But, geez, I would suggest, especially if you are a young boxer out there or a novice boxer or just turned pro or whatever, I would advise, don't worry about the strength and conditioning. That'll come, okay? Focus and put even up to 90% of your time into boxing-related exercise. You still do lots of fitness stuff, but make it boxing-related. Footwork, bobbing and weaving and slipping and, your punches, all that sort of stuff. Forget about all the hard strength and conditioning stuff. That will come later. So a little bit of a tip there. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on that shadow boxer. I'll get another one from – actually, I'll go back to Big Joe. I think I might have missed one of your comments. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. Well, we didn't mention this, of course. Sorry about that. Dylan Biggs would be an excellent opponent for Tim Tszyu. Does Biggs get a title shot now or something? No, I wouldn't have thought so, Big J. I mean, it was only a 6-rounder, wasn't it? I don't think he's anywhere near a fight with Tim Tszyu. I think Tim is looking more world-ranked sort of fighters. And, I mean, as good as he went, Nikita still dealt with Dylan Biggs pretty easy. Hang on, I've just put in Dylan Tszyu. We don't want that, do we? We want Dylan Biggs. I just want to see. So I think they're 6-rounders, aren't they? The Bow Desert Storm. Great nickname. 8-rounders, sorry. I thought they were 6-rounders. The final was an 8-rounder. Okay, so the ones before. So this is his 5th fight. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's had 6 fights this year, has Dylan Biggs. I didn't know that. I thought it was only 5. So he had 1 to start the year back in March. Then he fought in April, June, August, October, and now December. So he had 5 fights in Riyadh. Riyadh. So the first 4 were 6-rounders, and then the last one was an 8-rounder. So no, I don't think so, Big J. Look, he's done himself no harm at all for winning this. And I hope he does get some sort of world rating. But being an 8-rounder, I don't know how it works, whether you have to have fought 10 rounds to sort of qualify. I'm not pretending to know it all. But as far as being an opponent for Tim Tszyu, I don't think it'd even be in the conversation, Big J. As I said, Nikita's already dealt with Dylan, and I don't think no matter how he went in the Grand Prix, that Tim Tszyu looking for Nikita's leftovers at this stage. So, title shot? No, he's not getting a title shot. As I said, he's only fought 4 6-rounders and an 8-rounder. But I'd be surprised if he wasn't world rated, and now he obviously gets an opportunity. And really, you're looking at guys that No Limit should be signing. This is the guy. Should be straight on the phone. If I was No Limit, I would have been on the phone yesterday or this morning saying, hey, Brendan Smith, I think, trains him, doesn't he? Hey, Brendan, we need to talk. Because there's not really the next wave of fighters coming through at the moment, I don't think. Not quality guys anyway. So Dylan Biggs would definitely be one. Cooper O'Connell would be the other one, world champion in the juniors. But these are the guys they should be having the scouts watching and signing up. But for Tim Tszyu, no, mate, I wouldn't have thought so. I think I've got through all yours there. A Big J. Another one about Dylan Biggs. Biggs winning the WBC Grand Prix, all against Southport, is pretty impressive. Is that right? I didn't even notice that he that they're all against Southpaws. There you go. But yeah, look, unbelievable effort by Dylan Biggs. Fantastic. And it would have been interesting to see how far that what's his name, Hassan Hamden went, because of course he had was it the shoulder or the arm, whatever it was. Would have been interesting to see how far he would have got. But for Dylan Biggs, just I'm really happy for him, because I think I said on one of my videos that he was beaten by Nikita pretty comprehensively. Could have maybe just sort of went back into the shadows, but really worked hard, went up to middleweight, and now has won the Grand Prix. And he'll be on a lot of promoters' radars, I would have thought, a lot of managers or promoters' radar. All right. What do we got there? Tony, hello everyone. Do you know much about a young fella, Jacob Kassar? From Melbourne, one of the reps that come into work mentioned his name as a real good kid. I've never heard of him. Yes, I have heard of him, Tony. I'm not sure he's actually turned pro. I remember him as an amateur. I'll just see if he's turned pro. But I definitely have heard of him, Tony. He's apparently a very, very good young prospect. If there he is there. I don't think... No, he hasn't turned pro yet. Just his amateur record up there. It says he's had about 56 amateur fights. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on him, Tony. But, yes, I have heard of him, and apparently he's got a fair few raps on him. So, we'll keep an eye on him there, mate. All right, old mate, again. Tim, not that impressive on Wednesday. I think it proves he has a long road back to the top. Yeah. Look, I was in agreement, Big J. And you would have seen, if you watched my daily videos, you would have seen that on the day after the fight, which was, Thursday, I don't think I was not complimentary of him, but I wasn't overly glowing in my assessment. I just said that, in my opinion, from what I saw on Wednesday night, was not enough to convince me that he's anywhere near or back to where he was. That was just my honest opinion. And I invited people's comments, and it was great. I got a lot of messages and comments on the post and all that sort of stuff on the video. So I addressed it again the next day, and it was really good to get some positive feedback by saying, well, that's good. You've at least acknowledged it. Things like the jab was really good. His head movement was good. But I did stand by my comments that I still didn't see enough to convince me that he's back. I'm just wrapped that he got through the fight. Won every round, let's face it. Velasquez didn't even fire a shot. And that had a lot to do with Tim as well. Really liked his work rate. It's probably one thing I didn't sort of mention. Really loved his work rate. Worked really hard for all 10 rounds. I didn't think he looked as strong as he normally looked in previous fights. But look, it happens. He's probably altered a few different things, and it can happen. But I was impressed that he won all 10 rounds. And I was impressed that he dominated the opponent, but I'll stand by. I just wasn't that impressed to the point where I think he's going to be a real force going forward. Now, let's not forget, was it 8 weeks camp with Pedro Diaz? So you've got to give a lot of leeway for that. Severe confidence issues, I would think, going into the fight. Getting stopped in his last fight, it can really affect you mentally. I did talk to Mike Altamura the other day, and I won't let out everything that Mike said because it was sort of setting confidence. But one thing he did say was that Tim was really keen to finish the year. And I think a lot of people asked, well, why is he back so soon? Why don't he spend 3 or 4 months with Pedro Diaz and do it properly then? It's almost like, Mike didn't say this, it's probably me just reading between the lines. Like if you're a surfer and you have a shark attack, you got to get straight back in the water, because if you don't, who knows what mental damage that does to you going forward and when you can get back to where you were. So that's probably what I would compare it to. Tim said to Mike he needs to finish the year with a win. Just walking around the streets of Sydney, people sort of look at you differently. People a little bit scared to come and get a photo, all that sort of stuff. And it makes a lot of sense. Boxers or even just any elite athlete are very ego-driven. And I can 100% see why Tim would have said to Mike, I need to get back quick. I just need to have a win before the end of the year, because if I don't, I've got to carry this around for however long. So when he said that, it made all the sense in the world. And I've said all along as well, I think that really good move to learn on the job. Get him straight back in the ring. Just get a win on your belt. Doesn't matter. I mean, we'll analyse it to death, but does it matter? He won, and he won every single round. So good on him. Yes, am I being critical, or was I critical of him? Of course I was, because I was asked an honest question, do you think he's back? And I said, no, I don't, but not yet, but he's on the right track. Well, actually, I won't even say he's on the right track. He's on the track or a track. At least he's on a track and moving forward, because it's better than sitting on the sidelines, wondering what people think of you, wondering whether you've still got it, wonder whether you can get back. So I fully welcome that he got jumped straight back in there and just expelled the demons, or exercised his demons, and finished the year on a high. I'm sure he'll have a great Christmas dinner on Thursday, and he can, and New Year's, whatever it might be, straight into 2026 with a clear mind, confident, with a slate wiped clean, ready to go. And another month or two under Pedro Diaz. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And when I was sort of reviewing the video the other day, when I was saying the things I wasn't impressed with, it was more, I didn't probably balance that out enough with, but I was impressed with this and I was impressed with that. It was all about, well, I was asked whether he was back and I just said no, and here's the reasons why. What I should have done was balance it out, as I said, with the reasons why it was just great to get a win. And that's all it was. So it really doesn't matter the manner in which he did it. The fact that he just got a win, I think, is just one big tick, and who cares about everything else? He's back. As far as being in the ring, Mike was really happy, said Tim was really happy with his performance, and the fans went away happy, and that's all that sort of matters. So whether he gets back remains to be seen. I'm still to be convinced, as I said, but it's up to him now to prove to everyone, and mainly himself, that he's back to where he was. A long road to go, but as I said, at least he's started the car up and started his journey. So good on him. Mark Wynn, hi, Mark. What's that? G'day. Yep, Lynden, Big J, Tony, and Shadowbox. So nice to have you along there, Mark. All right, Big J, you're on fire tonight, mate. What else you got there? Women's boxing is hard to take seriously when most of them are doing OnlyFans. 2 rounds, I'm assuming that's meant to say 2-minute rounds are the way to go, but it's getting better. Yeah, look, I've been pretty vocal, Big J, that I think it should at least be 12-2s. Now, I don't, look, I'm all for the girls doing 3-minute rounds, but would I watch it if it was 3-minute rounds? I've got to be honest, I don't think so. Unless it was a really big fight, Serrano Taylor type of fights, or a Neeks Johnson versus a Shannon O'Connell, or one of those type of fights, okay. But I must admit, I said in my video that I watched Alicia Baumgardner's fight, and I was like, geez, this is really... And I know a lot of men's fights are the same, so I'm not just singling out the females, but the 3-minute rounds, I struggle to get into it. 12-2s, I think, would be a good way to start. And maybe we can just gradually grow into it. Now, Christine on D-Style's channel said, well, if we had just started with 3-minute round fights, when we wouldn't be having this conversation, it'd just be given. So, and I do agree with her, but it doesn't matter. They started with 2-minute rounds. So I think for now, it should be 10 minutes for just a regular fight, 12-2s for a world title fight. Let's just see how it goes. And if it progresses to 12-3s, D-Style made a great point. Well, the women only do 3 sets in tennis, and that works really well. 5 sets might just be maybe a little bit beyond them. Not saying 12-3s are beyond females, but I just think for now, it's still in its formation period. And as much as female boxing has grown over the years, and the standard is so much higher, same as MMA, UFC, I don't think we're at the point now where you're going to get the fans, which are predominantly male. A lot of female fans, I get it, but the majority of fans are male, whether they're going to actually accept sitting down and watching a 12-by-3-minute female fight. I've still got my doubts, especially in Australia. I just a comment this morning about the post I was sent with the hypothetical all-women's fight that they could have, or all-women's card. And I'll be honest, I still don't think it would sell massively here in Australia. I'm just not sure we're at the stage where we would sit down to a big money, all female card. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because they work just as hard as the guys. They put in just as much. So I hope so, but I just got a feeling that female boxing is just not there yet, where it's going to be accepted and fans are going to be, counting down the days to these big 12 3-minute round title fights. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mark, Big J, was Tim ever really at the top? As soon as he faced a couple legitimate top fighters, he got destroyed. Well, it's a good point, Mark. great question. Was he really at the top? Now, let's just sort of go back to his fights before the first Fundora loss. He beat Inoue from Japan, who was built up to be a pretty solid guy, but was pretty average in the end. And not really that well or that highly ranked in or regarded in the world scene, even though they built him up pretty highly at the time. The Tony Harrison fight was built up, and look, that was a legitimate win from Tim. I know the hindsight of it all was that, oh, he's washed and blah, 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 but up to that point, no one said that about Tony Harrison, so I was really impressed with that. Don't count the Ocampo fight. I knew that wouldn't last too long. Very average fighter. He just fights with his chin up in the air. But then the Mendoza fight, I must admit, Mark, after that fight, I thought, I reckon Tim is there. He's there. Now, in hindsight, Harrison and Mendoza were probably B to B minus type of fighters, from where Harrison might have been a little bit higher at his peak, but really had regressed a little bit. Brian Mendoza had that great win over Sebastian Fundora, but apart from that, was really getting schooled up until that point. Doesn't matter, I know, because he ended up winning, and that's all that counts. But really was sort of exposed sort of before and after that of being just a B to B minus level fighter. But I must admit, after that fight, Mark, I thought Tim had arrived. I really did. Such an impressive performance from Tim. And Brian Mendoza was coming off the Fundora fight. But of course, it was sort of or brought down in stunning fashion, wasn't it, in that fight with the first fight with Fundora. And he just hasn't really been able to recover. And that's my point too, Mark. I think the first 2 or 3 rounds, or especially the first 2 rounds of the Fundora fight, showed or probably gave the impression to most people that Tim definitely was at the level. He looked so good in the first 2 rounds, but as we all know, it's a 12-round fight, so let's not get excited over 2 rounds. But I was so impressed with those first 2 rounds, how sharp he looked and how he dominated Fundora. And unfortunately, he just hasn't looked the same fighter since. And that's what I said is the big challenge for Tim Tszyu going forward. Can he get back to even the level that he was at? And to answer your question, there was ever really at the top level? Probably not. Probably not. At that A level, he's probably at maybe A minus, B plus, but not at the A or definitely A plus level. So, and as soon as he faced a couple of legitimate top fighters, he got destroyed. Yeah, well, you're sort of right. Fundora didn't destroy him the first time out. I mean, that was a split decision. Who knows what might have happened if he didn't have the cut on his head. And the Murtazalia fight, I just think it was a case of a fighter just getting caught. And I don't think it would have mattered what level was Tim at that time. He just got caught. He got cocky. He went out there. He didn't respect Murtazalia enough. Didn't give him any credit. He went out there and tried to walk him down and knock him out and got knocked out himself. So I think that was just one of those learning curves. Mate, you play with fire, you're going to get burned, and he got nailed. The Fundora fight for me, the second Fundora fight, is probably the true test of whether Tim's at the level, and unfortunately, he failed the test. Had these moments in the second fight, but was pretty much dominated for the entirety of that fight. So that, to me, shows me that Tim maybe might not have been there in the first place, but there's still time. There's still time. Do I think he can get there? I'll be honest, I doubt it. But I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But it's now up to Tim, and all that matters is, I suppose, him and his team's opinion, isn't it? So, all right, Tony. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of women fighting in any form. Maybe I'm an old fart, or maybe as a kid seeing just the worst domestic violence towards my mother makes me feel this way. Yeah, well, Tony, look, that's nothing wrong with those comments, mate. You're just being honest, and I agree. I must admit, the first female fight I saw was back in 2006, and they had I think it was the Youth Commonwealth Games in Bendigo, and I went to see the female boxing, and I'd never seen proper female boxing. I know I'm probably living under a rock, but in 2006, I hadn't seen it. Actually, I take that back. I'd seen Christy Martin on a couple of the Mike Tyson cards. I remember thinking, geez, this is something you don't sort of see every day. 2 women punching on. And I saw these young girls punching on in the boxing ring, and I must admit, I was sort of doing this, sort of watching through my fingers. I couldn't watch it. It made me feel really uneasy seeing women get punched in the face, even if it was from another female. Now, I slowly got used to it over the journey, but it still makes me a little bit uncomfortable when I see women with bad cuts and getting knocked out and really getting knocked around, mate. So, but all that aside, I truly respect all women fighters, just like I do the guys, because they work just as hard. They take as much risk and they put it all on the line and dedicate everything they possibly can. So I've got full respect for women boxers, but I've got to admit, unless it's the right fight, I must admit, I skip the fights. I do. And there's probably only 3 or 4 fights in women's boxing at the moment that I would go, wow, I'm really looking forward to this fight. Because apart from that, I really wouldn't care. And most of those fights would include Aussie females. So if Shanika Johnson fought Shannon O'Connell or Sky Nicholson, I'd really look forward to that fight. If Ebony Bridges came back and fought Shannon O'Connell or Sky Nicholson or Shanika Johnson, I'd be watching. Internationally, I won't say I went out of my way and really looked forward to Serrano and Taylor, but it was a fight that I was legitimately looking forward to seeing. Is there any of those international fights now? I don't think there is. What about you guys? Let me know. What fights internationally or even domestically would you say, yes, I can't wait to see that fight? Because apart from those Aussie ones I mentioned, there's not really one I would really be counting the days to in the world scene. But anyway, I might be wrong. Tony also says, I'm not a fan of OnlyFans. Never have been, of women having to get the gear off for money. I don't like it either, Tony. I've never seen it, never subscribed to anything like that. I've seen different comments and all that people, and I've seen clips that people put up or that they put up themselves. But it makes me really uncomfortable, Tony. It really does. But having said that, the women don't get paid a lot of money, and if the offer is there, or the opportunity is there, I should say, to make big money from simply doing whatever you do on those OnlyFans, well, I suppose you got to take your hat off, or not take your hat off to them, but you've got to respect what they do, I suppose. Yeah, I don't like it at all, Tony, but I do understand why they do it. But yeah, I'm not a rap for it, but you know, they're adults. People pay to watch it, so get on. I did see. Again, I've never been on it. I don't know exactly what they put on. I can guess, of course. But I did see, who was it the other day? One of the male boxers actually started an OnlyFans. But I think, and I was one of them, I was under this impression that OnlyFans was just about getting your clothes off and showing bits that you don't show on regular social media. That's what I thought. But apparently it's just about giving an exclusive members-only insight into what you do. So there was a male fighter, I can't remember who they said the other day, that just all it does shows him cooking meals and his training regimen and all that sort of stuff. It's just the reputation that OnlyFans has. I think they need another, because OnlyFans to me, I would interpret it as, you know, an X-rated type of social media. I think they almost need one where it's just maybe call it members only, and that's all it is. And it's just for fans that just want to see your everyday life that you don't put up on social media. Maybe it's private conversations and whatever it is, live streams, all that sort of stuff. I don't know, but I know they do it on YouTube, members only and all that sort of stuff, but maybe they could do something similar on another side. I don't know. I don't watch it. So, all right. Glenn, how are you, Glenn? Evening all. Jake fight was as expected. He was always going to run and was going to be hard to KO. Yep. Yeah, no, I'm with you there, Glenn. He did make it hard for AJ, and I did say in my video that the reason he lasted as long as he did, because AJ's a big, big guy. And I likened it to Rocky in Rocky 2 trying to chase the chicken. Big guy, the little chicken's nimble, which was Jake Paul going left and going right. And Anthony Joshua really struggled to cut the ring off and catch him. But when the sting went out of the fight after the 5th round and Jake Paul started to slow down, he had no choice but to engage a little bit. That's when the fight was all over. I don't blame Jake Paul, by the way, for running around the ring for 5 rounds. A big guy like like Anthony Joshua coming out, he had no hope of going one-on-one with him. So I don't begrudge what he did, but what I do begrudge is that he's taken everyone along for the ride, and not that anyone paid for it, I suppose, but he's taken everyone along for the ride with the circus, and I think it ended up exactly the way everyone thought, just probably come 3 or 4 rounds late, or later than people thought. All right. Ado says, women's boxing, 2 minutes equals rock'em sock'em, unless you're Sky Nicholson. 3 minutes equals strategy. I prefer the latter, but many will only watch the women when they're bashing each other over 2-minute rounds. Good point, Ado, and that's something I really agree with. And again, I did comment on one of the videos I did that you've got the Shanika Johnson fight on the weekend where it was 2 minutes, and that's what it was, Ada. It was just rock 'em, sock 'em. No real strategy, no real setting up punches. It was just head down and just throw punches. And Shanika won because she's probably a little bit stronger and a little bit more skilled than her Canadian opponent. And then you had, of course, the 12 3-minute round one where it's like, geez, are these girls actually going to do anything? Because it was very strategic. So that's the question. Do we want strategic where we let really classy fighters do the thing like Alicia Baumgardner yesterday, or sorry, the day before, or do we want the rock 'em sock 'em 2-minute fights? I got a feeling most supporters would say, nah, leave it at 2 minutes, and let's just if you're going to get the girls on, let's just let them go for it, or else we're just not going to appreciate what they do and we're not going to watch. So Sky Nicholson, you're right, is probably the only female fighter that I've seen recently that actually combines the two. Fights at a really high pace for 2-minute rounds, but she's also very technical. And I've really been impressed with Sky in her last few fights, that she's really started to sit down a little bit and probably take charge a little bit and realise that technique-wise, she's got it all over most of the girls she fights, and she doesn't need to get on her bike. She can stand her ground and not only outbox these girls, but actually outfight them as well. So, but yeah, it's each to their own, I suppose, Ado. But I must admit, I prefer, even though I like technical fights, I prefer with the women 2-minute rounds. I'm just saying. All right. All right, Glenn. What do you got there? Regarding Tate, a truly despicable person who put on the worst boxing performance I've seen basically ever. Not sure how you think the left wing runs the media. Well, it's pretty easy, Glenn. Just read the paper every day, mate. Every day. You don't see, well, you probably 90% of the articles in the media are written by left-wing media who the whole job is to bring down right-wing extremists, as they say. That's what they do. Just read the paper, mate. I'm not making it up. It's fact. It's fact. Read that article that I wrote there, and you obviously don't like Andrew Tate, and I don't profess to be a fan of his and don't watch his videos and all that sort of stuff, but that reporter just made shit up. And that's what a lot of them do. So that's why I think the left wing runs the media. All you got to do, mate, I know we're not getting into politics here, but our man over in the States, Trump, the old saying, you could cure cancer and they'll still write bad articles about him. That is true. And they do it no matter what he does, which is good for the world. You'll get the left-wing media, will just continue to find the negatives in it. That's my point. So that's why I think the left wing runs the media. And I don't think that's really opinion either, Glenn. I think that's fact. So without getting into the whole political thing with you, that's why, what's your question? I'm not sure how you think the left wing runs the media. That's why. Because every single article you see in the paper about Trump, and I'm not getting into what you think about Trump, but every single article you see in most of those papers is all negative. Not one thing positive, and you've got to go to other sources to see anything about him, which is why they do their best to turn everyone against someone like him, and here in Australia as well. Again, I'm going to move on pretty quick because I don't want to get into it. I'm sure you'll have comments later on. I'm not going to, and I'll just forewarn you, I'm not getting into a political back and forth here, okay? You asked the question and I've responded, so we're going to leave it at that. But you asked, and there's my answer. And is he a truly despicable person? Well, that's just your opinion, Glenn. That's just your opinion. I'm sure there's lots of people on here that actually like what he has to say. I'm neither here nor there. I don't watch his stuff. I don't, I've seen some of it. I don't agree, but I'm not going to judge him because I don't watch enough of it. But my point was is that the reporter in the paper didn't even watch the fight. Just made it up. Just made it up. So that was my point. And as far as being a despicable person, well, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it. So we'll leave it at that. Glenn, regarding Joshua, I thought his stance was a bit different. He's not over the front foot as much. Usyk influenced, I think. Yeah, I think he looked a lot tighter, Glenn. The only thing I did see is his inability to cut the ring off. But as I said, it's because Jake Paul's just not standing still. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes with, say, a Fury, or I don't think he'll get Dubois again, but one of those types of guys who, traditional type of heavyweight, and just see how much has improved. So it did seem, at least he seemed balanced and poised. Like his poise was good. His punches were okay, but again, he struggled to really throw punches and land punches because Jake Paul just wouldn't stand still. So I think that's a really hard one to really make anything out of until we see him in with another legitimate elite heavyweight. So All right, Cal. Jake's effort was embarrassing. I'm glad his jaw is sore. Love women's boxing, but they should be matched more fairly. Yeah, I think they do a pretty good job, don't they, Cal, with matching the women's? I thought, look, the thing is, what's happening, because the talent pool is so shallow and it's getting better all the time. The quality of fighters is and the talent pool is getting deeper and deeper and deeper. The problem is it's not deep enough at the moment. So what you're finding is that you get these really dominant women at the top, and then it just falls away really, really quick. Especially in the heavier divisions. I mean, you've got, say, Clarissa Shields up there, and I don't think, apart from maybe, who's the girl that she had a couple of fights with, or no, I think she had one fight with the English girl. Apart from her and maybe one other one, there's not really any other fighters for her to fight. So that's why all her fights are so one-sided. When you get to the lower weight divisions, really good quality women there. But as you get heavier, it's just like, oh my God. So that's why I think you see a lot of mismatches at the heavier levels, because you've got one sort of dominant fighter and then just a lack of anyone that's remotely anywhere near them. So, but yeah, Jake's effort, yeah, a little bit embarrassing, Cal. I mean, he showed a little bit of heart. He was sort of tough, but if you're going to get in there and talk it up like he did, and then to run around for 5 rounds, I don't blame him again, as I said, but yeah, mildly embarrassing, we'll say. Ed Woodson, how are you, Ed? Salutes. Yep, talking boxing chat. Have to watch the replay at work in the morning. Good stuff, Ed. Thanks for tuning in there, mate. All right, Cal, by the way, Merry Christmas to you and your missus. Oh, and yours, sorry. Thank you for all the boxing insight. No worries at all, Cal. I really appreciate everyone's comments and thoughts and opinions. Wouldn't be a show unless we're all sort of bouncing things off each other. So it's really good. Drew, how are you, Drew? I'll just get a drink here. All right, I honestly think boxing itself took a 10-6 round on the weekend. Okay. A different view from Drew. I like it. Both guys took a loss. As bad as Jake was, I'm not buying that AJ carried him. I think he only KO'd Jake after fake Paul was tired. I agree, Drew. I don't think he carried him at all. I think he was trying to knock him out, but as I said before, he's just moving and moving like the chicken. And AJ's like Rocky trying to get hold of him. He just couldn't get hold of him. And I think he did throw a lot of big bombs early, did AJ, but Jake Paul just wasn't there. So, yeah, I don't think he carried him. That last right hand, though, I still think just maybe didn't have as much pep on it, but maybe he just didn't catch him right. I don't know. But, yeah, as far as taking a 10-6 round, I don't know. It depends on how you look at it, Drew. If you're sort of ranking boxing purely based on the Jake Paul event, I don't think so. I mean, as long as you sort of coincide them with the regular boxing events, although the Tim Tszyu card was great. Kay Scott, of course, winning yesterday. Wasn't the greatest card, but she got the win. That's all that matters. Was it 10-6? Maybe not. Maybe a 10-8, we'll call it, Drew. But I wouldn't go so far as 10-6, but all good. All right, J Beebs. Tried hard to watch women's boxing over the years. Generally, it's more action-packed, but the lack of power and finishes makes me casual at best. No appetite for 3-minute rounds for me. Yeah, and that's why I want to hear, J Beebs. Look, I'm a little bit the same. Yeah, I've really tried, and I've promoted a lot of women's fights over the years myself. But that's why I still think they still need to stick to 2-minute rounds, just for now. Lack of power. I'm not too stressed about the lack of power and finishes, because when I watch a women's fight or a female fight, I almost expect it to go the distance, if I'm being honest. So I never get disappointed. Especially when you see a lot of the records. They might have had 18 wins and 2 knockouts, or 2 stoppages, or 12 wins and 1 knockout. So you know what you're going to get. Yeah, but each to their own again. There's Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Merry Christmas to you too there, mate. Drew, not a popular take, but I actually enjoyed the 3-minute rounds in the women's fight rather than the usual 2-minute rounds, hit and giggle fights. That said, not sure it will catch fire with the public. Yeah, it's another good take there, Drew, that you like the 3-minute rounds. As I said, I didn't really like it, but I can see if you're really into the women's boxing and you like the technical side of it as well, I can understand why you would like the 3-minute rounds. Will it catch fire with the public? I've just got my doubts, Drew. I suppose the big tests, if they want to do it in Australia, is put on maybe a couple of big female fights and just see what sort of crowd they draw. I hope I'm wrong. I just think it would really struggle to sell. And let's say, for instance, they put on a double header of, say, Shanika Johnson versus Sky Nicholson, and Ebony Bridges versus Shannon O'Connell in a rematch. What sort of crowd do you think they would get? I would think 4,000 to 5,000 would be the absolute tops for that event, which is still a pretty good crowd. I mean, Tim Zoo's, some of his fights have only, and Jai Patai's fights have only been 5,000. So maybe, 3,000 to 4,000, I'll say. Maybe not four to five, but 3 to 4 is about all I think we could expect, which is not that bad. But I think, there's these aspirations that we could get a Madison Square Garden type crowd. I just don't think so. I don't think so. Big J, Marvin Hagler and Ken Norton had bodies of Greek gods and never did weights, unsure about Holyfield. I think he did weights, Big J. Yeah, I think Holyfield did it. Yeah, Hagler was just chiseled, wasn't he? He was just really cut and lean. Not lean, but cut. I don't think he was bulk, but he had, you're right, it was like he was being chiseled and looked like a Greek god. And Ken Norton, well, a little bit different because he was a heavyweight compared to a middleweight for Hagler. But yeah, he had probably the best physique you'll ever see. George Foreman, when he was younger too, he had a great physique too. Glenn, I'm for the 2-minute rounds for the girls, more exciting. Yep. Drew says Holyfield was definitely on the juice. That is the rumours, isn't it? Mark agrees. Holyfield definitely on the juice. Yep. Still with Mark. Biggs fought all Southpaw opponents at the WBC tournament. Very unusual. That is really, so 6 fights? Or 5 was it? 5 fights. I think it was. Yeah, 5 fights. I'll just confirm that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. All Southpaws. That's a unbelievable start. I wonder what the odds are that in in boxing history of a fighter having 5 straight fights against Southpaws. Unless they're obviously rematches against the same guy. Shadow Boxer. Let's change the subject. All right. When Nikita beats Zarafa, his resume looks pretty good for his amount of fights. Biggs and Zarafa on there. What about Camilleri? Yeah. What's that say? Camilleri. Yeah, Camilleri for Nikita after Zarafa. Yeah. Look, I'm with you, Shadow Boxer. I think Nikita beats Zarafa. Even though I said the other day that the first battle went to Zarafa on the face-off the other night. I thought he got the upper hand in that. And you're right, his resume will look very, very good with the win over Biggs and especially Zarafa. Kamakayo for Nikita. I'm not sure that's a great fight for Nikita. Kamakayo is a real spoiler. I reckon he could make Nikita look very, very ordinary. Not to say Nikita is ordinary. What I'm saying is Kamakayo could make Nikita look ordinary. And Kamakayo, look at his fight with Tim. Didn't win many rounds against Tim, but at that stage, like there's so much focus and hype about Tim. His first pay-per-view was against Kamakayo. And Kamakayo actually did very, very well for 10 rounds. I only would have probably given him 2, maybe 3 rounds. But Tim did not look good at all. So I think they would probably learn from that and stay away from him for Nikita. He just doesn't need to fight him, Shadow Boxer. I mean, he'll be going international, I would think, after Michael Zarafa. No need to come back and fight any other Aussies. He's been there, and apart from Kamakayo, he's pretty much cleaned out everyone. Maybe Benny Mahoney, but different promoters. So I would think they would stay away from Kamakayo, Shadow Boxer, because it's just a risky fight. And I don't think he'd have any chance of beating Nikita, but Joel tends to, he sort of moves his head a lot. He's in, he's out, he's southpaw, he's orthodox, he's all over the place. I think they might be worried about maybe head clashes, and you remember he cut Tim as well. So I just think that's a fight that they just wouldn't need, I think. And I think they'll definitely go international after Zarafa if he does win. When I say international, I don't mean going straight in the top 10. I'm talking about maybe top 15 to 20 is what they'll look at as slowly. Maybe get him 3, 4, maybe 5 fights against those type of guys, and then throw him in with one of the top guys at 154. Ryan, excuse my ignorance, but has Alex Winwood fought yet? If not, when? I do my best to keep up, but I'm bloody busy at the moment. Yeah, I feel you there, Ryan. He did fight recently, and he scored a first-round knockout. I'll just bring him up there. Very overmatched opponent, Ryan. I think it was on a Wanderers card. It might have been. I think it was a Thai or Filipino or something like that, mate. But he knocked him out pretty easy in the first round. I'll just let that load. When it loads, I'll come back to you. But yeah, he has made a comeback fight, mate. And look, probably a little bit like Tim Tszyu. Just wanted to get a win. His last fight was really disappointing. Tough fight against the Thai champion. And probably mentally and physically, it was probably good for him just to get an easy win, just to come back, because he hadn't fought for, I think, a year or something. So that's still loading there. I'll come back to that. What's that, Big J? Holyfield Holyfield admitted himself, and he had heart problems because of it. Okay, there you go. Hearns told you Velasquez had no chance. Just another Joey Spencer with a better chin. Yeah, look, you're right, Hearns, but I think we all sort of suspected it. I must admit, the first round, I thought he showed a little something. I thought he was being very cautious earlier, because I just thought that, it's Tim Tszyu and foreign country and all the rest of it. But then when the second and third round comes around, I thought, oh my God, this is the way he's going to fight for the entire fight. 100% negative. Did not even attempt, in my opinion, to win the fight. I know it's easy said out from outside the ring, but just realised early that he was not going to win, and just shut shop and just went through the motions for 10 rounds and just let Tim pretty much do what he wanted to do. So that was disappointing. Now, Alex Winwood, by the way, had a first round knockout over Wafichai Montri. That was on, what event was that? On a Jamie Meyer card, that was. Who asked that before? That was Ryan. So, yeah, it was on a Jamie Meyer fight card. It was only about a month ago there, Ryan. So, yeah, he's back. So, that's the main thing. Big J, Tim got caught. Oh, hang on. I'll go back to that comment in a second there, Drew. Tim got caught with 16 left counter hooks, and top level, he gets destroyed again if he doesn't change his defensive issues. Well, that was one of my points as well, Big J. That he didn't seem to have improved the openness to left hooks. That was probably one thing I was concerned about. Still a little bit of the habit of pulling straight out with his chin slightly up in the air, open for that left hook. But look, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that as time goes on, they will be working on all these types of things. I think the emphasis was just, from what it looked like, was more head movement, use the jab a lot more. I'm sure that things like, well, let's stop the openness to the hook, and the counter hooks, he just said there. I didn't realise it was 16. I do remember him getting caught with a couple, but I wasn't aware that it was 16 hooks, so that's a pretty good stat. You are right. If he doesn't fix it by the time he fights another top liner, well, it could be curtains for Tim. And the thing is, all those top line guys would be studying the Fundora and especially the Murtazalia fights from start to finish, and really looking at what happened. And even with the Murtazalia fight, I've got to give Tim a little bit of an out. Now, yes, he was careless. Yes, he rushed in. Yes, he didn't give Murtazalia enough respect. But look at the first left hook he gets dropped with. He had his hand up nice and high. And I don't think he did anything wrong. And the old term in the gym is, you answer the phone. If you're throwing a left hook yourself or whatever, you answer the phone. You have the right hand nice and high. Go back and watch the footage of that first knockdown with Murtazalia. Tim didn't really do anything wrong. He had it right here. The problem is that Murtazalia just snuck it there's this much room, and he snuck it in there, and Tim just couldn't recover. So yes to all those criticisms about not respecting Murtazalia and just expecting to go out there and knock him out and everything else. But have a good look at that. I don't blame or put all the blame on that. He just got caught by an unbelievably placed left hook, and he just couldn't recover. And I know the comeback will be, but when he got knocked down, he should have held and moved and whatever. But when you get hit like that, you don't know what's going on. Your head's just, the canaries are going round and round the top of your head, and you just don't know what's going on. And once you get caught up in the flurry, it's very hard to do anything about it. So I'm going to give him a little bit of the out with that first Murtazalia hook, but it doesn't excuse the fact that, like you said there, Big J, he still was caught 16 times with counter left hook. So something he's definitely got to rectify. All right, Drew, hopefully the boxing public has consumed enough of the Jake Paul circus. Even if he fights again for free on Netflix, I'm now officially out. Feel ashamed of myself for watching Jake versus AJ and Tyson. Oh, yeah, you're right, Drew. I must admit, the only two fights I've ever watched of Jake Paul was Tyson and AJ. I've never watched any of his fights. Yep, I've seen on social media. You can't avoid it. You know, I'm scrolling along and then the highlight comes up of him, if you can call it a highlight, that is, of him knocking somebody out. I've never actually sat down and specifically sat down to watch a Jake Paul fight apart from those two ones. The Tyson one was probably like a lot of you out there. It was like, geez, I wonder what's actually going to happen. The fight pretty much went exactly the way I thought it would go, but I was still intrigued. And the fact it was free on Netflix, of course I'm going to watch. It's Mike Tyson. And I'll really, and actually, if I'm being honest as well, when I sat down for Jake and Tyson, my thought wasn't, can Tyson knock out Jake Paul? Or is Jake Paul good enough that he's going to beat Tyson? I was looking at, is this fight fixed or not? I want to keep an eye on it. And I don't think so myself. I know everyone's showing the clip of where he looks like he pulls the punch and all that sort of stuff. I just think Tyson fought like a 58-year-old man, if I'm being honest. I just don't think he could pull the trigger. I think in that video too, you can I think he went to throw it and then realised he wasn't going to get there. I don't know, but in my humble opinion, I don't think the fight was fixed with Tyson. I just think Tyson was just 58 years old, been through a lot of wars, and just couldn't pull the trigger and was just totally over the hill. That's what I put that down to. And even the fight on the weekend, I don't think it was fixed. I think maybe, and you could probably constitute this as being fixed if you want, I bet there might have been a little bit of a nudge, wink, wink, that AJ, don't go out there and embarrass the guy. All right, just get a few rounds, do your thing. We know you're going to win, but just can we at least put on some sort of performance and make him look sort of semi-capable? That's what I think might have happened. And without anything being in writing or payment or anything like that, I think it just would have been Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua maybe with, what's his name? The guy that is the business partner of Jake Paul. Has that guy ever smiled in his life? Guy always looks angry. Is it Rosita or whatever his name is? Mate, smile. It's okay. You've just made millions and millions of dollars. You can smile, okay? It's all good. That maybe him and Eddie have a bit of a talk and say, hey, mate, you know, can you just look after Jake a little bit? Don't go out and knock him out in 30 seconds, all right? And maybe Eddie said to Anthony, yeah, mate, no need to take it too quickly, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's get another drink there. All right, Drew. The funniest thing was when Holyfield got busted for a drug package addressed to Evan. Was that for a drug package addressed to Evan Fields? That said, he had an epic career. I don't really get that one there, Drew, but I'm sure Big J will get the joke. Adam, evening, Mr. Hosking. Do you think Biggs beats Zarafa or anyone in the top 10 of all bodies? Love your legend. Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate that, mate. To answer your question, do you think Biggs beats Zarafa? No, I don't. No. As well as he fought, levels, as they say, Adam, and I don't think he beats Michael Zarafa. The top 10, well, I suppose if you say he's not going to beat Michael Zarafa, you could say he's not going to beat anyone in the top 10. Maybe, look, what is he, middleweight, isn't he? Middleweight's not an overly strong division. I don't even know half the people in some of these rankings there, Adam. Maybe he could beat someone in the top 10, but I don't think he beats Michael Zarafa. No. All right, Ado. Can you see Inoue and Nakatani happening in 26 if they both get through this weekend? Yes, Ado, I do. I think it will most likely be next. Maybe they might have one more fight, but it will definitely happen in 2026, in my opinion, Ado. And you would have seen, if you watched my video this morning, I had that fight as that I want my Christmas stocking or under the Christmas tree for 2026 and Inoue Nakatani. I know it's cherry picking, but definitely that fight. I'm going to do a video actually on the in order, maybe the top 5, or maybe even the top 10. I'll see how I go of my order of the fights that I want to see happen. The biggest fights the video I did this morning was more just, as I said, an early Christmas gift, fights I'd like to see. But the top fights in boxing, what are they? Not just my opinion, but the actual factual top 10 fights in boxing and what order of importance I would have them. I might do that maybe over the New Year's period when there's not much going on. I might save it for that. I'm also going to do another video I've decided to about the must-see over the Christmas, New Year period. We're all looking for things to watch on YouTube or whatever. The must-see, maybe Aussie fights of all time. And maybe even a world level one as well. The 10 must-see fights. Because a lot of people sometimes I mention fights, go, oh yeah, I've never really seen that fight. And I'm going back, even with the Aussies, going back to Lester Ellis days. Some Jeff Harding days, some great fights out there. So I'm going to do that over the Christmas, New Year period once, as I said, when we've got nothing to talk about. Drew, not convinced with the Tim Tszyu comeback at all. That said, it's his first tenure with a new team. Tim deserves the benefit of the doubt with his new journey. That's what I said before, Drew. Was I impressed? No, but does he deserve the benefit of the doubt? Of course he does. 8 weeks with his new trainer. He probably went in there 2 months ahead of schedule, got the win, didn't lose a round. So good on him. Good on him. And that's all that matters, as I said before. He's on the track. And where that track takes him, does it really matter? As long as he's started his journey. He's on the yellow brick road to the Oz, the Wizard of Oz, whatever it is. What is it? He's on his way to Oz on the yellow brick road. And he's got Mike Altamura in the Scarecrow outfit and Omar the Chef in the Tin Man outfit, and Pedro Diaz in the Lions outfit, or whatever you want to have him. So then he's got actually the chef would probably be what's the dog? Toto? Is that the dog? Toto? Yeah, that's who the chef reminds me of. Just a little yapper. All right, Big J, what do we got here? Are you doing a show next week? If not, I've got to give you the comment of the year when you said. Put my balls where my mouth was. Sorry about that, Big J. That was due to your army service. I know they're big, but not that big. I do apologise, Big J. Put your balls where your mouth is. Yeah, I still think you should do a live, Big J, where all those fans of yours can jump on and make you back up some of your comments. I think it'd be good. But yes, put your balls where your mouth is. That didn't really come out right, did it? All right, Drew, I think the Tony Harrison win was where Tim really gained his hype and momentum to a new level. I think most people underestimated how expired Harrison actually was. It was still a very good win. Yeah, well, I think in hindsight, Drew, they said he was expired. But at the time, I mean, he was still. I think he'd lost his last fight to Charlo. But, I mean, I don't think he was washed or anything. It might have been slightly past his best, but at the time, a lot of people thought that he'd give Tim a really good fight. So I thought it was a really good win. But as I said before, the Mendoza one was the one where I thought, geez, Tim might actually be for real here. Don't worry about all those home cooking type of fights where he's made to look good by the Inoways and that of the world. I thought that the Mendoza fight really showed that he was on the right track. So just backtrack a bit there. Big J, I am doing a show next week, by the way, mate. Yes. So this is our Christmas edition. Next week will be our New Year's edition. Okay, so yes, I'll be doing a show next week to close out the year. What have we got there? All right, Ado, those Tim Tszyu shirts with all the 154 pounders on his hit list didn't age so well. Yeah, well, it's a good call, Ado. Well, the age-old comment, I've lived my life by it. If you talk it up, you got to back it up. And sometimes if you put yourself out there like that, you've got to wear the consequences. You remember it was Crawford on there, and I think Canelo was on there. Yeah, I think we only got 1 or 2 names into that list, didn't we? And we had to reassess. But I don't think with Mike Altamura in charge, Ado, you're going to see that type of thing from Tim this time around. I know, without saying too much, I don't think Mike was overly happy with the hyena comments directed at Hector Bermudez either. I just don't think we really need to do that if you're looking at image and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, Crawford was definitely there, Ado. Yep. I gave him $1. How are you there, mate? I really enjoyed young Redder and 50 cal the other night. It might be all the raspberry cordials I had, but it looked like young 50 cal was leading with his right hand. A lot more jabs, please. Yeah, look, yeah, Redder, a good young prospect, mate. Look, he's got a long, long way to go. Don't get me wrong, and I don't think they're looking at anything on the world level for him or anything like that. He's only a young kid. I would think as many as up to like 10 fights before I'd look to step him up. Doesn't mean it's over a 3 or 4 year period. He could probably have 10 fights over the next 2.5 years. He's still a young guy. don't rush him. I know a lot of the young fighters these days want to get to world titles in their 12th or 13th fight. I just don't think you need to. Look, if you turn pro at 25, 26, yeah, okay, I get it. But when you're a young kid like him, I would get him up to 20 fights before I even looked at any type of international test, mate. And for 50 cal, yeah, look, he was tested the other night. He really was. Yeah, he looked a lot better than he had in his earlier fights, because those other ones where they're all first round knockouts, there was no regard for defense or setting up punches or anything like that. It was just march straight ahead and just keep throwing punches until they went down. It looked like it was going to be that way the other night early, didn't it, when he went out the same way? But when he got nailed a few times, I was really actually impressed with the way he adjusted and realised he wasn't just going to steamroll Beacon. He was going to have to work his way through it. And even though he kept busy, and I've still got concerns with the way he doesn't set up punches and just come straight ahead. But at least the other night he had to think, and I saw a little bit of improvement with him. He's going to be a good fighter, mate. I think he's going to be a really good fighter. But he's, again, no need to rush him. Get him up to 15, 16 fights before you give him a test. Because the other night, even though he was dominant, he still got nailed a few times. So I'm sure they'll work on that. But yeah, really impressed with both of them, mate, for sure. Cal, some of those women boxers could cop a hit better than Tim. Come on, Cal. Come on. I've got an impression you're not part of the Tim Zoo fan club, are you? Baku 6420. Oh, I think that's what they put up now, isn't it, the digits? We'll call you Baku. Does Jasmine Parr have a future in boxing? Good question, Baku. I think she has, but a lot has to change. She has to change her whole attitude. And maybe the trainer in a corner. I mean, Paul Briggs has got a really good reputation. I'm just not sure he's the right fit for Jazzy Parr. I don't think enough emphasis on technique and everything for me, because his background, of course, is also in Muay Thai, which is her background as well. Does she have a future? Yeah, but again, she has to change a lot, Baku. This whole sense of entitlement that she has is like, well, I'm Jazzy Parr, so I'm just supposed to win, and if I don't, there's something wrong. I don't like that. She was beaten by Shannon O'Connell. She was beaten comprehensively by Solomon. It was Solomon, yeah. And she needs to, excuse the pun, but take it on the chin. And to me, she acts like a spoiled little brat. It's like everyone's supposed to just to say, hey, yeah, here it is, little princess, and she gets all that she wants. No, boxing doesn't work that way. And I don't like the way she carries on. And if she changes her attitude and realizes that, oh, I've got to knuckle down and I'm not going to be just given anything, I'm not going to have easy fights, and these girls are actually going to come and try and win, then she might have success. But until she realizes she needs to change everything, nothing will change, Baku. If she realizes herself that she needs to do what I just said, then there's a future for her. If she just remains stubborn and says, well, I'm just, I'll just keep doing it, I'm going to eventually make it, then no, she won't. So I'm hoping the penny drops and she gets her head together. All right, there's Batman in the chat. Away, Batman. I think we've seen you for a few weeks. Yeah, Mark. Yep, Jazzy's attitude is shocking. Princess describes it well. Yeah, she is. That's the way she acts. I would just like to see, look, at the end of the day, whether you're a male or female, young or old, no one likes to lose, and they're all pissed. But there's a way to carry yourself. There's a way to carry yourself in victory. There's also a way to carry yourself in defeat. She's great in victory, but just has not been good at defeat. Until she fixes that, as I said, I don't think she can make it in boxing, because you've got to have that attitude that you're gonna lose some along the way. You just got to learn from every fight, get better. She's only young. I mean, gee, she could have another 5 losses and she could still be a world champion in boxing. As long as she's learning from each fight, she should be fine. But if she just chucks a tantrum every time she loses and refuses to accept that she's got to do things differently, then she goes nowhere. What's that, Cal? Domestic violence is very different to 2 women trained to fight. Yeah, good call. Yep. Ryan says OnlyFans equals Epstein. Disgusting. Okay. Probably get barred now. I've said that name, won't I? All right, Tony. Could this be a possible matchup in 2026? Jai Patai versus David Benavides, and what moves on the chessboard need to be made? I'd pay twice on a pay-per-view to see that battle. You and me both, Tony. Again, in my video this morning, I said this would be the top of my list as far as the Christmas presents go. In a way, Nakatani would be close, but if I had to pick one, it's Opatai and Benavides. That is the fight. Both are just killers. Both have real bad attitudes when they're in the ring. Both love a scrap. Both love fighting in real fights. They don't like to take easy fights. I just think this is the best fight to be made in boxing. You can have Ortiz and Boots. You can have, who else? It was Inoue and Nakatani. You can have Bam Rodriguez in a way. I don't care. This would be the fight that I would, like you, mate, pay twice the money for a pay-per-view because that is the fight for me. Is it the biggest fight in boxing? No, it's not. But is it the biggest fight in boxing? Yes, it is, if that makes sense. Commercially, no, but as far as just a fighter's fighter versus another fighter's fighter at their peak with just looking to get their hands on each other, I think it would be fantastic. Is it possible? Yeah, 100%. And the reason I say it's possible is I expect Jai to beat whoever he's in there with, whether it's Michelanian or whoever. I expect Benavides to beat Ramirez. Then, if there's nothing at light heavyweight for Benavides, if Beterbiev or Bivol aren't there, really no one else there for him to fight. He's made the move up 25 pounds to cruiserweight. He might go, well, stuff this going right back to light heavyweight. I'm just going to stay where we are. If he beats Ramirez and say, all right, while we're here, let's unify those belts. Let's get it going. And Jai Pataya would be the challenge he'd be after. So I would hope so there, Tony. Where are we? Baku, seems a bit odd that a gold medalist heavyweight champion can't cut off the cage against Jake Paul. Yeah, as I said before, mate, it just comes down to Jake Paul just being a lot smaller and a lot more nimble, I think. I was watching it thinking, why can't AJ cut the ring off here? But look at the size of the ring is the main thing. I think it was a 24-foot ring, which is the absolute biggest ring you can get. And obviously Jake Paul wanted that size for a reason. And I'm sure Anthony Joshua went, yeah, mate, have a 30-foot ring. I don't give a shit. I'm still going to get there at some stage. But I would put it down to that, Baku. The fact it was an enormous ring. Jake Paul just did not want to stop. And you watch him. It's not like he's just sort of casually moving to the left or to the right. He's on his bike. He's going left. He's going right. He's going left again. So, and a big, cumbersome type of guy like AJ is going to have trouble really getting, or cutting off the ring. It's a little bit like the Titanic trying to sort of move. It's a process. It just can't be quick and nimble. It's going to just do it very slowly. And that's a bit like a big heavyweight like AJ, which is when you got Jake Paul, running all over the place. I would put it down to that why he couldn't get hold of him, not that he just didn't know how to cut the ring off. Drew says, I honestly think Opatai will fight Michelanian early to mid next year. It's the only fight he needs to fight next. Fingers crossed. Well, let's hope so, Drew. Well, all the signs so far says it's going to happen. They all seem positive at the moment. Michelanian's been quoted as saying he wants to fight. Opatai, of course, would fight King Kong tomorrow if he was allowed to. And Michelanian, I know it's easy to say, yeah, I'll take Opatai, but whether or not they can actually get the fight done is another thing. But I think it'll be the next one, Drew. And then I'm hoping that the winner gets to fight the winner of Benavides Ramirez at the end of the year for all the belts. It'd be fantastic. Boxing Jones. I could see 12 2-minute rounds for women's boxing. Yep, I think so too. Boxing Jones. Drew, Dana and TKO's new boxing venture starts soon. The fact that they are not announcing any names of fighters for the opening fight night is alarming. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, was it January 23rd, I think it might have been, for their first show, which is a month away. They haven't even announced the fight card yet or any signings yet, as far as I know. There was rumours, was it last week, was it Marco Romeo was on the Tim card, excuse me, and it was sort of put out there that he might be in the gun of TKO. Whether or not he gets signed or not, or we don't think so now, but they haven't announced any other fighters. There's supposed to be 200 fighters that they're going to sign. Now, I know they don't need 200 fighters straight away, but you think they'd be able to get their hands on sort of 20 or 30, wouldn't you? And so far, they've got none. If they were smart, they probably would have went to the WBC Grand Prix and maybe signed up a lot of the winners and runners up. Maybe that could have been a start, because that's, I think, what they're looking at, the Dylan Biggses of the world. So maybe he could be in their sights. I don't know, but yeah, January 23rd. I think the 24th, the night after, is the UFC. So yeah, I'm with you, Drew. It doesn't really make sense at this stage, does it? Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yep, hit the like. It's free, 100%. We've got there Paul Michael Craig. How are you, Paul? 154 is a loaded division, whereas middleweight is barren. Now, Janabek, pissed hot. Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. Should Zoo move up? Definitely probably would be worth considering there, Paul. But if he makes 154 pretty comfortably, I don't see the need. If he was struggling to make the weight, I would say go up now. Just don't worry about it. Go up to middleweight. But the fact he makes 154 pretty comfortably, I would say no. There's still, look, they're talking about Xander Zayas at the moment. He's very, very beatable. He's probably the weakest of all the 154-pound champions. Maybe Barral you could throw in there. I know he won't go near Fundora or Murnazalyov again, but I would think that if he stays at 154, has maybe a fight in March or April, goes again in July or August, and then at the end of 2026, if Xander Zayas has still got the belt, I would be looking at, or belts, it might be the WBA belt as well, or Barral, the winner of that fight, I would be looking and targeting at the end of 2026. I think both guys are beatable. And I think Tim could beat him. Not from what I saw the other night, but we've just got the framework there now. If Tim moved up in his next fight, I don't think I would back him. But give him another 2 fights and sort of target the end of 2026 for those guys. Yeah, 100% he could win. But we need to see more. So for now, I think it's 154. If he has a couple of fights at 154 and the titles aren't, I mean, that could be, all those top guys could be all sort of tied up with each other, maybe. Or maybe he does win a 154-pound belt, let's say it's Zayas, and then decides to move up, maybe. But we're all just looking way too far ahead, I think, at the moment. I think stay at 154, look for a title shot at the end of 2026, maybe the start of 2027 as a best possible outcome, but minimum 2 more fights. And I think from what I've heard from Mike, they're looking at 2 fights before, July or August next year, and then a step up at the end of 2026. So, all right. Drew, who potentially is or could be boxing's next crossover star? Canelo has very little left, but is retiring just before his name was gaining momentum, and AJ and Fury are inactive and will retire soon. So when you say crossover, so is that crossing over to like MMA, or just a crossover as far as like every man and his dog's going to know who they are? I'll assume you're saying that. Crossover star. Well, Ryan Garcia could have been that guy, but who knows where he's at the moment. I doubt he gets there. In a way, obviously a superstar, but will not cross over into mainstream, the Western society, I suppose, being a Japanese fighter. I know that's just the way it is. Let's see. Let's quickly go through. So, well, would Moses Otama be someone you could maybe put some faith in another couple of years? Maybe. Usyk's obviously there at the moment. Jai Bataya, yeah, maybe. David Benavides, maybe. No one real. Well, Canelo's, as you said, almost gone. No one at 160. No one really at 154. Maybe could Boots or Ortiz? I'm not sure either one of them have got a lot of pizzazz. Is that the word? I don't know. But as I said, I definitely think Ryan Garcia had the potential to do it after that Haney fight, but he's just blown it. So who knows where he goes. I was going to say Lopez or Shakur. Probably not. Yeah, I don't know, Drew. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, mate. I cannot answer that question. Glenn, if he beats Jai, I don't think he does, but it's David Benavides. Yeah, definitely potential for David Benavides, Glenn, for sure. Drew, hang on, we'll go back to Ado. The highlight of the Tyson-Jake Paul fight was Tyson flashing his butt after being interviewed in his locker room pre-fight. And you remember, it didn't happen in my house because it was a pretty good stream, but I did see that it froze on his butt for a long time, just the picture of his butt. So That's Mike Tyson for you, isn't it? I'm surprised he didn't just go into the ring wearing that 8-0 and not bother to put trunks on. Drew, agree with your assessment of Tyson's performance versus Paul or anyone now. After sadly quitting on his stool 20 years earlier versus McBride, I'm not sure how people expected him to be a beast 20 years later. Yeah, I think people had short memories, Drew, or maybe long memories when they're looking back to his prime. I just didn't see how he could raise a gallop against even Jake Paul. I was hoping that he'd land that shot from hell that would knock Paul out, the one that he received the other night, but I mean, he could barely move, let alone punch Mike Tyson. So I remember watching probably about the first 30 seconds of that, and I thought, oh, that's it. That's the way the fight's going to go. I do think Jake Paul could have stopped him in the end, Drew, as well. Yep, I think if anyone was sort of pulling punch at the end, it was Jake Paul. And I think he did it because he had so much respect for Mike Tyson. I'm glad he did it. So he gets a few little kudos for that. But, yeah, just a shocking fight, wasn't it? Ryan watched a podcast this morning with Zarafa. He was telling a story of where he was told to act a villain to the point where he was given lines to read. That is a horrible pressure to put on a fighter. I didn't know about the lines to read, Ryan. I did know. I mean, it's common knowledge that the promoters always put him up to it, but he's always gone with it. He didn't have to, although they might have said, well, if you don't do it, you're not on the card. I get that. Yeah, I don't put all the blame on the promoters as far as his persona. I think he took great delight. I mean, no one, unless I'm proven wrong, no one sort of told him to come up with the Mickey Hatton line against Tim Tszyu that really got him and the boxing fans offside. No one told him to really, play up on like the one thing he shouldn't have probably been doing is really insulting Tim Tszyu. People just disowned him after that. Tim was the golden boy then. I know a lot of people have jumped off Tim since then and probably even jumped to Zarafa. But talk 3, 4, 5 years ago, Tim was 100% the golden boy, and how dare you say anything against him? And Michael, I think, in his eagerness to get that fight with Tim, I think he said a few things that he shouldn't have said, and it really got a lot of fans offside. Now, I think Michael has really changed his tact a lot recently, and I think he's got a lot of fans on his side now. There'll be a lot more going for him against Nikita than I ever thought there would be. Because I've had people say, oh, I'm sick of the Zoos, I want them gone. Well, geez, be careful what you wish for, because when they're gone, there's not going to be a lot left, I can tell you. Not a lot of rising stars. So, but I've been impressed with Michael recently, especially with the Nikita face-off the other night. He could have easily just pushed Nikita and caused a bit of a stir and sort of yapped. I know he had a little bit to say about Tim after the fight too. I get that. But I thought it was constructive criticism. I really did. But I really like the way he let Nikita have his fun and then just hit him both barrels with his response verbally. I thought that was really well done. I think he's changed tack, Ryan, and I think he's endeared himself to a few more fans. I haven't seen that or heard that podcast either, by the way, but if I get time, I'll check it out. I doubt I'll get to do it this week, but we'll see. Bill, my opinion, all Oz fighters need to go to AIS for 3-month camp because after 15 fights, they all go backwards. They run forward, no head movement, angles, no in and out. Amateur fundamentals matter. The problem is, Bill, there's no good coach at the AIS either. There's not. Well, good amateur coaches there might be, but even the amateur coaches aren't overly experienced internationally. And they all do a great job, don't get me wrong, but I think the coaches they have at AIS level haven't really been at world level. They haven't really been boxers themselves. They haven't, not that you have to be, but you have to have had some sort of boxing background. I think some of them just, I've always said it, just tracksuit chasers. And they want the trips and all that sort of stuff. There are some good ones, but I don't think sending fighters to AIS is going to achieve anything, Bill. I think if I was in that situation there, it would be trying to get as many overseas camps as I could. Now, I know it all costs money, and I get it, but if they're going to improve, they need to get out of the Aussie fishbowl. They can do it in conjunction with their Aussie coach. There's some really good Aussie coaches, I can tell you, really good. But you still need to expand your horizons and maybe get out of, as I said, the Aussie bubble and get overseas. Spend a month or something over at, I don't know, the Wild Card or Robert Garcia's gym or wherever it might be in Vegas. That's where you're going to get the great sparring. You become a real gym rat. You live in the gym. You don't get any special favors over there. The spars are like fights. You get found out pretty quick. So I think that's what we need. And you quickly learn about head movement and angles and all this sort of stuff there, I can tell you, mate. But you got to learn the hard way. And there's no easy way to learn. But I just think sometimes, I know money's a big thing and a lot of fighters can't afford to get away and all that sort of stuff. But unfortunately, unless they do, I don't see them improving too much. I mean, Liam Paro is a great example. Went over and lived over in Vegas for, I think it was nearly a year or something, was it? Or I might be getting it wrong, but he was over there for a long time, just living in the gyms. Tim Zuano's doing it now. Michael Zarafa spent a fair bit of time over there. I know the young fella the other night, Marco Romeo, tried over there, but you need more than just one sort of 3 or 4 week camp. You need to be over there regularly, which is why I take my hat off to young Cooper O'Connell at the moment over there, 18 or 19 years of age, has moved to Vegas to get the absolute best out of himself. So unfortunately, that's what it takes if you're going to make it overseas. You got to get in over there and get down in the trenches. That's what it takes. And not just the fighters, by the way. If you're a coach out there, I would encourage you to go over there, even if it's by yourself, and spend 4, 6, 8 weeks with the Freddie Roach of the world, Robert Garcia of the world, and just become a gym rat yourself and just watch and observe. I'm sure they would all do it. And you see a lot of the coaches in like AFL, or I'm not sure about NRL and those types of, but I know in AFL, a lot of the coaches will go over to England or the United States and they'll spend their off season following a manager in one of the English soccer teams or one of the NFL teams or basketball teams and just expand the horizons. That's what I think a lot of coaches have to do as well. And that might even be easier. If the fighters can't get over there, send the coach over there. It's the only way you learn. And I think just sitting back here, too many coaches here in Australia think they know it all, and they don't. I can assure you they don't, but they think they do. So that would be my advice to not just the fighters, but also the trainers and the coaches. Get your ass over there and just observe. Because to become elite sometimes, you've got to almost be around other elite people. And let's just say you're at the wild card. And I've seen it myself numerous times. You got Freddie Roach there. You got an elite fighter in camp, and you're just around it. You've got no choice but to rise with it. You just do. You walk a bit taller by being around elite fighters, trainers, even managers, promoters. You become more elite if you're around elite people. And that's why, again, if you're wondering how to get better as a coach, get your ass overseas. And if you're an amateur coach, go over to Cuba, go to Russia, wherever. But get out of our little sanctuary here, and that's the only way I think that you improve. So anyway, I gave him $1 the other night. Reminded me of how good Fennick was at that level. He was destroying opponents. Yeah. Yep, he was, mate. He was something else, wasn't he, Jeff? He certainly was. Polly the Farmer, Inoue and Nakatani have said they're going to fight. Japan's a country where if you say something and don't do it, it's a huge dishonor. I read it signed for May 2. Wouldn't surprise me, Polly, but geez, that's a big weekend, isn't it? Benavides and Ramirez, and then that on the same weekend. What a card that would be. Or not a card, but a weekend. It would be massive. Drew, the Mendoza fight that Tim had actually showed Tim displaying poise, pressure, and skill. Was it a case of Mendoza being an easier fight? Has he abandoned some of his skills and strategies since? I think a bit of both, Drew. I think Drew might have been a little bit easier than what we thought he might have been, or not really at the level that we thought he might have been. But Tim just broke him down in that fight. And you're right, displayed poise, pressure, skill, defense, offense, whatever it was. That was probably his best performance to date, I think. And unfortunately, it all went downhill from there, but he can get back. Paul, I heard from a good source that Jazzy Parr didn't get paid by No Limit for her last fight with them, which is why Jazzy versus Solomon was on a Sam LaBruna card. I didn't hear that, Paul. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I would strongly doubt that. No Limit. They make a lot of money with promotions. I couldn't see a reason why they wouldn't have paid Jazzy Parr. But again, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I would doubt it. I just think No Limit didn't give Jazzy the maybe attention. Sam LaBruna's come up with the offer. Jazzy would have had to obviously ask No Limit for permission. And they probably would have said, yeah, whatever, just go and do it, whatever. Because they're probably concentrating on a couple of big cards at the time, so maybe they didn't care. I don't know. But what they should have said was, no, you're our fighter, and that fight needs to be on one of our cards. So you're going to have to wait until the Tim Tszyu and Velasquez fight, and you can fight on that. Or what was the last one? Paro and Wilson, was it? Was that the same card? Whatever it was. Anyway. Bridges versus Serrano for a new OnlyFans belt would hold more credibility than the much sought after Zuffa belt. Got to agree with you there, Drew. I think the Zuffa belt means zip at the moment. Sarah, how are you, Sarah? Billy Joe wanted the largest size ring against Canelo. Didn't ultimately work for him. He did pretty well for, was it 8 rounds, whatever, Sarah, and then got caught with that big uppercut in the 9th, was it? I think it was, and did the eye socket, yeah. Dargan and O'Connell, who you got? Great fight. I've got Dargan. No, I'm going to stick with the shotgun there, Glenn. Be a good fight, though. Really good fight, but I think Shannon can win. Thurko. Do you think Jai could be TKO's big signing? Not going to happen, Thurko. He signed with Tasman Fighters / Matchroom. He's not going anywhere, mate. I can assure you that. Not yet, anyway. Nick Balla. How are you, Nick? Now, how the fight between Joshua and Jake was even sanctioned baffles me, but that's America. Anything happens. Luckily, no one got killed. Yeah, Nick, I'm with you. I don't think it should have been sanctioned. I think it should have been, boys, we understand there's a lot of money to be made, but we cannot sanction that fight in good faith. Exhibition, no problem. But as a properly sanctioned fight, I don't think it should have been either, Nick. And I think, well, Jake got out of it unscathed in the end, apart from, of course, the jaw, if you can call that unscathed. But, yeah, I'm with you. If I had the choice beforehand, I would have said, no, we're not going to sanction that fight. Tom, how much did you focus on nutrition during your fighting days? Were you in a meticulous calorie counter during a weight cut? No, mate, I didn't have a nutritionist or a dietitian, anything like that. I sort of had to do a lot myself, unfortunately. I think if I had someone that actually really knew what they were doing, I could have probably made 140 really, but I fought at 147. I was a meticulous calorie counter. I always just like to sit at a certain weight. So I fought at 67 kilos. I would sit at probably 72, 73. Highest would be 74. Then I would just say, right, at the end of this week, I've got to be this weight. No matter what it took. I'd do a weigh-in at the end of the week, and I had to be that weight. And then the following week, I had to be another weight, and just till I got to fight week, and I had to be 2 to 3, probably 3 kilos over by the start of fight week, and then I knew getting the last 3 kilos off would be easy. I always got the last probably 2 to 2.5 kilos off the night before the fight. I could just put on a sweatsuit. I'd cut out really food for that week anyway. I'd just live on the absolute bare essentials. I probably wouldn't even be eating proper meals, to be honest. I'd just be eating light, crackers or biscuits or lollies or something like that. I just didn't eat, which is not great, I know. So, again, I didn't have a dietitian. And then if I was about 2 to 2.5 kilos over the night before the weigh-in, I would then put the sweatsuit on, do a session, jump in the sauna, and I'd go to bed on weight. Happy days. So I actually did it right, which again shows me that I probably should have been fighting in a division below. But I didn't have anyone sort of that could do that for me there, mate. But no, it wasn't a big thing for me. I never ate badly when I was training either, by the way, but I didn't really know about all these, like you said, the calorie counting and all these sort of stuff they do these days. Nutrition was just, well, I'll just eat vegetables and salad. That was my nutrition, and some vitamins and that sort of stuff. Mark says, Glenn, I hope Dargan as well. If she can't beat a new 40-year-old veteran, she ain't all that. Or a near 40-year-old veteran, she ain't all that. No, I wouldn't have thought so. She says, I'll tell you what, if Shannon can beat her, though, she's pretty much ticked off nearly every major Aussie female boxer around that weight in the last probably 15 years. Apart from Skye Nicholson, she's beaten Shanika. People forget this. She beat Shanika Johnson. Was it 3 or 4 years ago? Didn't, of course, beat Ebony Bridges, but she's beaten a lot of those top liners. Taylor Robinson and Bianca Almir and, what's her name? There's been a lot anyway. Jazzy Parr, beaten them all. All right, Big J, what do you got, mate? One thing I forgot to mention about the Jake AJ fight. Jake took more knees than the USA women's soccer team with the US national anthem is played. That's a really good analogy there, Big J. Yeah, you're right. Geez, he should have got a point taken off for that, but that's a really good comparison. If you don't know what Big J is talking about, whenever the national anthem of the US was played, all those woke USA soccer team members, women's team, all took a knee and wouldn't acknowledge the anthem. It should have been not able to represent your country. If that's the case, you kneel against the anthem, take that shirt off, get out. Leave the political shit at the door. I don't agree, Glenn. I'm sorry. I don't agree. As I said, you would have heard my comments here. I don't agree that they should go to the AIS. And I assure you, I've been there plenty of times, and I don't. The facilities are great, but not a great program. All right, I'm not sure the media trying to beat the bad blood drum for Nikita versus Arafa works. The fight sells itself without the fake beef. Tim versus Michael was genuine beef. Yeah, they've tried to manufacture it the best they can, haven't they, Drew? It hasn't really worked, but I still think the viewership will be quite high for Nikita and Zarafa for sure. AJ versus fake Paul. I just can't buy it, says unknown Samoan. Fake fight, fake injury, fake X-rays. Okay. Like you said, AJ let him run for 5 rounds and great acting and taking the punch. I don't know, Samoan. I don't know. Each to their own. I like that. He took more knees than Linda Lovelace on a good night in Dallas. Well, I said there, 94. Unknown Samoan. When Jai had his jaw broken, he couldn't talk. When Jai broke the Italian's jaw, he couldn't speak. But fake Paul announced his broken jaw in the ring. No problem. Don't buy it, bro. Yeah, good point, actually, Samoan, because when Jai broke his jaw, remember, he couldn't do an interview after the fight. And his was broken on both sides, though, wasn't it? But having said that, though, if you've seen the close-ups of Jake Paul's mouth, you can clearly see that his jaw has altered. The teeth in the back are pointed in. You can see where it's actually dropped. So not to say it wasn't broken. I'm just saying maybe it wasn't as bad as what Jai's was. The link. Okay, you put the link in there. Okay, for Orion. I'll make sure I check it out. Drew, if Lewis and Bo fought back in the day, who wins? I have Lewis by 116, 112 decision. Yes, I think Lewis wins that fight, Drew. I think, well, again, does it sort of count on or depend on what Bo turns up? Do we get the motivated Bo or the unmotivated Bo? I'm going to go both fighters are primed, motivated, ready to go. I'm still going to go with Lennox Lewis. Yep, on points. Maybe late stoppage. Maybe. No, actually, I'll take that back. I think Bo was pretty durable, wasn't he? Pretty tough. So Lewis on points with me. By points. Yep. And 116, yeah. 115, 113, 116, 112, something like that. Bill, Maloney's, Tim, Cambosis, they all now seek and destroy. Last Maloney fight against Japanese fighters got his head jabbed off because all the Japanese have great fundamentals. Just my opinion. Yeah, that's cool, mate. Yeah, so did George Cambosis as well. Old mate. All right, I'll let you talk about Linda Lovelace and whoever else you're talking about there. Adam, on an average, a boxer's career on an average of a boxer's career, has Tim taken more damage than normal? All those knockdowns, Ryan, Gorshey, Fundora, they're the cut, Barkram, Fundora. Yeah, well, I suppose we do tend to underestimate that, don't we, Adam? I wouldn't count the Wade Ryan one. That was a flush knockdown. The Gorshey one, again, was a shock knockdown. Most of the time, the damage is done over the duration of a fight. So if you get knocked out cold early, the odds are you're going to recover pretty quick. You're not going to have any long-lasting effects. If you go on, although the Barkram murders earlier probably more had, well, that could probably be both. Definitely mental effects because Tim has really struggled to recover from that. And in that one, he actually really did take some real hard punches and was dropped 3 times, whatever it was. So that could definitely have had some physical impact. If you get hit just with one shot, most of the time, dropped with one shot, most of the time it's just a flush sort of thing and you recover pretty quick. If it happens regularly, though, then, of course, it can have some long-lasting effects. But, yeah, I think more mental, if anything, Adam. But definitely that Barkram fight and maybe the second Fundora fight could have some long-lasting effects. But I suppose we're not going to know for probably another 15 or 20 years, are we? So I saw some old footage of Ali horribly slurring his words before his ill-fated Holmes fight. But my major question is, why does Holmes get cremated while Burbick gets a pass for fighting Ali? I've always said that myself, Drew. Holmes was just doing what he was told. Big money fight. Ali talked it up, wanted the fight. I think it was more of a, what would you call it? I'm just trying to find the right words. But anyway, I think it was just because the fact that Holmes beat up a legend. And I think by the time Holmes had got done with him, Ali was pretty much a memory, and Berbick beating him up was not really a big news type of fight where the Holmes fight was. So I think he got a pass. But I'm with you. I still don't like the fact that Larry gets crucified for beating Ali. Ali wanted the fight, did all the build up. He was passed the fight by the board or commission, whatever they are. So it's not Larry's fault that he was put up and he beat him. Of course he's going to take the fight. Big money fight. He wanted respect. Unfortunately, he didn't get the respect. He got crucified for it, didn't he? Shotgun never fought Susie Q. Well, Big J, I can probably say to you that wasn't Shannon's fault. My first ever event, I think I've said on here before, offered Susie Q very, very good money. About 3 times what the average Aussie girl was fighting for at the time. Shannon was prepared to fight for a fraction of what Susie got. She just wanted the fight. Offered the fight to both. Susie's trainer/manager, Lim Jekka, accepted the fight. He said, yep, we're in. Shotgun said, I'm in. Didn't even ask what she was getting paid. She said, I'll take the fight. So it was Susie Q who said she didn't want the fight. So, and I can tell you that as fact, not rumor or innuendo. I was the promoter. And I know what I offered both. I know what was said. As I said, Shannon agreed. Lim Jekka agreed. Susie came back and said, no, I don't want the fight. No mention of money either. It wasn't more money. It was just, no, I don't want to fight. So make of that what you will. What's that? Also, Jake Paul's face is all bullshit. Apparently he's invested in this AI technology heavily. That's what the fight was all about. I'm not sure about the AI stuff, Adam. I know he was heavily into the crypto stuff beforehand too, wasn't he? There was a big sort of monologue thing that he did at a press conference with Anthony Joshua. It was like a press conference, but it was a commercial for his crypto. I don't understand crypto, but that's what it was about. Anyway. All right, we've got about 10 minutes to go there, guys. Mendoza never won a round against Boachuk. Good call, Hearns. Yeah, no, you're right. And really, when you look at it, hadn't really won many rounds against Fundora when he got knocked, or when he knocked Fundora out either. So we've got to take into account. But remember, at the time when they fought, Mendoza was coming off the Fundora win. He was all the rage at the 154-pound division. Tim was still sort of coming up, and it was viewed as a very, very risky fight. And Tim won the fight comfortably. So, Big J, the beatings that Mundine took from Hatley and Cloddy are evidence of Chock having issues today. Yeah, not just that either, Big J. He's had a lot of tough fights through the years. He has, yeah, and it's a little bit sad to see him now. He really struggles to put a sentence together. He was always sort of quick-witted and with his mouth as well, his reflexes and everything else. And yeah, I think he's still okay, Big J, but you can 100% see that he's had a lot of effects from a lot of his fights for sure. Glenn, what's wrong with Chock? He's fine. Glenn, come on, mate. Come on. He's not fine. Physically, he's healthy, but mate, go back and watch him 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. The way he speaks now is not the way he spoke back then. And I've got a feeling it could get worse. And I love Mundine, by the way, regardless of all the criticism he had. I used to always like watching him fight. Thought he was great for boxing, but it's pretty obvious that he's got some issues these days with his speech. That's just fact. So you can improve you can improve. I know most people sort of decline, but I have seen if you get out early enough and give your brain enough time to heal, it can get better. So let's hope that's the case. Yeah, Mark agrees. Hearns, great comment by you and Harrison. Mendoza, both B grade. Harrison is now fighting fighters ranked in the high 500s. Mendoza did not win a round against Boachuk. Yeah, good call there, Hearns. I get the feeling that most of Tim's knockdowns have been shots that he hasn't seen rather than a straight out weak chin. The Bakram multiple knockdowns for me was a result of the first knockdown. That's what I said before, Drew. I agree. I think it was 100% of him just not seeing the punches. And when you think about it, I don't think you can say he's got a weak chin. I know he's been dropped a couple of times early. It's just by being not switched on or being careless or whatever. It's not to do with a weak chin. The Bakram fight should actually be the opposite. I mean, the guy got knocked down 3 times badly, like really heavily, and still kept getting up. He didn't get knocked out. He wasn't counted out. He was actually rescued by his corner. And those shots he was getting hit with by Murtazalyov should have knocked him clean out. And a lot of those shots, he was hurt. He couldn't see the shots coming, and he still took the shots. And as I said before, that first shot he would never recovered from. But he still kept getting up. So I don't think you can say that he's got a weak chin at all. Against Gaucher, shock knockdown, got straight back up. Wade Ryan, shock knockdown, got straight back up. Who else has he been dropped by? Oh, Fundora, first round, shock knockdown, got straight back up. And finished the fight on his feet against Fundora, even though he copped a lot of punches. So I'm not taking on that as the reason, like, for having a weak chin. I just think he's just been nailed with some excellent shots for a variety of reasons, but has not been knocked out yet, has he? So, no, Glennie, never talk like that, mate. He was always a little bit, how you going, I suppose, slightly, but listen to his speech now. Go back and watch videos, as I said, from 10 or 15 years ago, mate. Unrecognisable. Rugby wouldn't have helped Mundine. Yeah, well, I suppose you could maybe include that, Ryan. I'm not sure. I didn't see him as a rugby league player, but yeah, if you're getting hit like that every week, maybe. I don't know. I can't comment because I didn't see him play rugby. Bill Mundine, Australia's best sportsman ever. Well, ask him, he'll tell you that, Bill. I mean, it's a good argument. The only sort of real crossover athlete we've had, is it? I'm assuming. This is in the modern times. I know back in the 1900s and 1900s and early like 1910s and 20s and that sort of stuff. A lot of athletes might have done different things back then, but modern day, I think you make a good point, Bill. Yeah, I'd like an A grade football player or rugby league player, and then a world champion boxer. Yeah, hard to argue against there, Bill. Drew says, I honestly think that Prime Chock beats Horn and Zarafa, despite his expired version losing to both in the first round. I think, yeah, when you say Prime Chock, Drew, I'm probably thinking the one that beat Danny Green the first time around. He was brilliant in that fight. I think that Chock beats Zarafa 100%, definitely. Horn would have been still a problem for him, just by styles. Different weights, of course, by the way, because Chock at his prime was at 168. Horn was at 147. Zarafa's 160 and was washed at the time. So it's a hard one. If Chock, when he fought Green, had to come down to 160 and fought Horn, might have been a different story. I don't know, but it's hard because, as I said, Horn was 147 at his best. Chock was 168 at his best. A big difference. But let's hypothetically say they sort of met in the middle. I think that would have been 50-50 with Horn. I still think that Horn's style would have given him problems. Being really busy, getting low, really awkward, coming from different angles. I don't think Chock would have been really able to really settle himself. Like, Danny Green was just custom made for Mundine. He made him look like a statue most of the time, didn't he? But I've got no doubt he beats Zarafa pretty easy if he was at his peak. A couple more minutes to go. Ryan, I remember doing some carpentry work at Danny Green's house in Waterman's in Perth. There you go. Thinking, wow, he's been punched way too much. Weeks later, he was fine. Green machine. Yeah, we look at Danny Green now. I mean, geez, still as sharp as ever, isn't he, Ryan? He doesn't skip a beat, does Danny. Really enjoyed him on the commentary the other week as well. I thought he did a great job. So, and a great bloke as well. Big J, yeah, Snowy Baker. Yeah, I forgot about Snowy Baker. Won a silver medal in boxing. And then swimming and track and field at the London 1980 Olympics. Yep. Then became a movie star after that in the 1920s. That's what I said. I'm sure there are guys like Snowy Baker back in those days. I'm talking about modern day. Because back then, I don't want to rubbish Snowy Baker, but back in the day, there obviously wasn't as many athletes in each thing, and there wasn't as like it's scientific, and you didn't have to be full time in one. You could sort of hop between the two. Little bit like the girls these days. Some of them play basketball and then play AFLW, and then they'll play something else and then go to swimming or whatever. But yeah, great athlete, obviously, Snowy Baker, but I don't think you can compare him to Anthony Mundine. But anyway. Shane Warne or Ian Thorpe. Yeah, look, it's a good call. What is it? The greatest there, the world's greatest. But I think what he's talking about is that he was in elite at two different sports. Shane Warne, elite. Ian Thorpe, elite. But Mundine was elite at 2 different sports. I think that's why he's talking about Australia's greatest ever athlete. And I think they're different types of athlete. Shane Warne is was, I know it's classified as an athlete, but a cricket player like a golfer is they're a player, if that makes sense. Where Thorpe, it's just different. It's hard to explain, but a track and field athlete is a hell of a lot different to a cricketer or a golfer. Ian Thorpe is he's again different to a boxer. You know what I mean? So each to their own. We're going to sort of rank them differently, but for me, I think Anthony Mundine would go very, very close. Drew Mundine was never the most articulate man, but the tempo of his speech in his prime was reasonably normally compared to now. Yeah, no, you're right, Drew. He wasn't the most articulate guy, but you go back and watch the early videos. Sharp as a tack. Yep. And he yep. So there's definitely been some damage over the time. Mark, great athlete, but some of the stuff he says is disgusting. Racial stuff never goes well. Yeah, I didn't like that about him. I'm with you. Frank, Prime Chock wouldn't let a prime Horn carry his bags. We forget how gifted Chock was. What's that? 03 to 09, he was brilliant. I agree, Frank. No, I agree with you. But I think overall he might have been a better fighter than Horn. I'm just talking about styles. I think, as I said, I don't think Mike was a Rafa being a straight-up type of boxer. I don't think he would have given Chock much dramas, to be honest. But I think Horn, with the way he fought, could have given Chock some problems. But 50-50 for me. What have we got? A couple of minutes to go. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate that, mate. Merry Christmas to you too. Thurko. Anthony Mundine was an excellent sportsman. He could have chosen a few different pathways, I believe. League, boxing, and basketball, I believe. Yeah, well, sometimes you find some athletes, Thurko, are just good at everything. I mean, he probably could have been an AFL player if he wanted to, as well as obviously league, boxing, but basketball as well. You find a lot of those elite guys are good at basketball. But, I just think he's one of those gifted athletes. And that's what I said. I'm not trying to disparage someone like Shane Warne, but Shane Warne was just good at cricket. Although he did play for St Kilda in the AFL in the reserves, but just a whole different athlete to Anthony Mundine. So I don't think you can sort of compare them both because just different sports and different types of athletes. But anyway, what do you got there? What's that, Drew? I'm officially the only person in Australia to see how the Storms suffer Solomona goes as a boxer. I think we all expect it to end in tears, but he's a giant of a man. I have no idea, Drew. I don't even know who he is. I've never seen him play rugby league, and I certainly haven't seen him do any boxing. I have no idea whether you're right or wrong there, mate. Stephen Bradbury, the GOAT. Love it. HQ Wagon. Yep. Have you ever seen anyone get that lucky? Even he makes a joke of it these days. It's just amazing that he won that gold medal. It doesn't matter how he won it. So good on him. But that's probably one of the most memorable times in Australian sporting history, isn't it? So there you go. All right, guys. Well, let's thanks, Glenn. Merry Christmas to you, mate. Really appreciate it. One more comment there from Bill. I personally think Horn would chance Chock or that beat Chock. Chase. Chock but never get near him. Chock would date him, I believe. Yeah, well, each to their own there, Bill, but respect your opinion there, mate. So, guys, look, that's going to do it. We'll finish a minute or so early. Look, really appreciate everyone's watching the show throughout the year. There will be one more show next week before the end of the year. We'll do a bit of a wrap-up next Monday night. Really hope you and your family have a happy and safe Christmas. And again, really appreciate everyone tuning in for all the shows. Walking Boxing will still be on for the rest of the year, except for Christmas Day. I might take that day off, but the show's only as good as those that watch it and listen to it. So again, really appreciate everyone tuning in every week and making the show what it is. So again, have a happy and safe Christmas, and we'll see you next week on Talking Boxing.